Hello, dear friends. According to a recent statement made by the British Ministry of Defence, we can foresee that the Third World War will start soon. Be ready to clash with China, Russia, Iran, North Korea in 5 years, is an interesting statement. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, on the other hand, instructed this to be added to the constitution to declare South Korea as the unchangeable archenemy. In this situation, the unification of the two Koreas is no longer possible. NATO, on the other hand, is of the opinion that they should give more weapons to Ukraine. The reason, they say, is that there is a strong Ukraine on the field in negotiations with Russia, so more arms aid should be provided. Iran attacked the American consulate in Erbil. Houthis say we are preparing for war again. We are not giving up. World leaders are preparing for Trump. After Trump won 98 out of 99 electoral districts in Iowa, world leaders tried to reach Trump's advisors. The Supreme Court will decide in February. If it is not legally prevented as a result of the court, Trump is coming next term. Some states had said that Trump could not enter the primaries. Trump seems to be the president if there is no legal obstacle to the presidency. Therefore, calculations are being made again in the world. So what will change? How will it affect the world? There is interesting news that the head of an LGBT organization in Canada has been arrested for child abuse. The former head of Shin Bet, Israel's domestic security service, says Israel cannot be safe without a Palestinian state. The pedophilia trial in America continues. The trial of another MOSSAD agent who confessed that he was an Israeli agent, a MOSSAD agent, continues. They are being arrested all over the world. The Davos meeting used to be important for the world, but I think it is no longer. In Davos, they are preparing a report on the creation of a naval task force by some neutral countries to escort Ukrainian grain and fertilizer ships. Russia's immediate reaction was to say that Davos is no different from a fishermen's association, and that they don't take the report seriously. In other words, who are you to make such a suggestion to countries that have no coastline in the Black Sea? They recalled the Straits of Montreux Convention and said that Turkey does not even attend Davos. There is no Davos without Turkey. Frankly, the Russians insulted Davos by comparing it to a fishermen's association. There is a disease X, which the World Health Organization has announced. It is an unknown disease. It is said that when it comes, it will be 20 times more deadly than the coronavirus. The globalists want to prepare the world for another shutdown. But the nation-states are already in a very difficult economic situation. No nation-state president can accept a new shutdown. Dear friends, Davos meetings used to be taken seriously. From this date onwards, I do not think that Davos meetings will be taken seriously in the world. This year, 40 countries were attended at the level of prime minister or head of state. But after this year, its impact will diminish, because the course of the world is not developing as predicted by Davos. Whatever they claim or report, it turns out to be the opposite. For example, there was an agreement on climate in the United Arab Emirates. Everyone is both signing the agreement and reading what they know. China has the world's largest solar panels and is the world's largest coal producer and user. Similarly, India both signs and is not shy about coal utilization. The UK authorizes oil exploration at around 100 different points in the North Sea. In other words, signing something in Davos does not create sanctions for nation-states. Therefore, the goals claimed by Davos and the theses they put forward will not have the quality to change the world agenda as of next year. The Epstein case is important. It is not just pedophilia and child trafficking. It is a matter of national security. It is a project of the Israeli intelligence MOSSAD to lure high-ranking officials in many countries around the world into its network. I will talk about this in detail in my next video. This Epstein has a girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her father, Robert Maxwell, a British media man, was killed in the 90s. It is rumored that he was killed by Mossad. It's rumored that his girlfriend was recruited by the Mossad. The Epstein affair hasn't exploded yet. I mean, it has exploded, but it's limited. Even in its limited explosion, the names that emerged shocked humanity. South Africa has taken Israel to court and is being tried for genocide as a state in the International Court of Justice. Alan Morton Dershowitz, the lawyer defending Israel, is mentioned in the Epstein case. This lawyer says, "I want a list of feminists who pressed hard for the publication of Epstein's lists. Let's see if these feminists have condemned Hamas." In other words, he makes a statement to deflect his own perversion. Jeffrey Epstein found dead in his cell, 3 broken bones in his neck, 2 guards asleep. The cameras were broken. Anyway, nobody finds this death convincing. But the fact is that during the presidential elections in the United States of America, this case is going to come to the fore more and more. So we see a film being made in the background of the world. Now, dear friends, what happens if Trump comes? An election was held in Iowa, and Trump clearly won this primary. The court has agreed to hear Trump's appeal of a judicial ruling that disqualified him from the Republican primary ballot in Colorado, signaling that the case will be heard at an extraordinary pace. The Supreme Court judges announced that oral arguments will be held on 8 February. The Supreme Court's decision will be binding across the country. An interesting situation is happening in the USA. Democrats in the United States of America are not happy with Joe Biden's candidacy, but they cannot do anything. They have no such power. There is no strong Democratic figure. There was Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy's grandson, who will be an independent candidate. World leaders are preparing for Trump. The leaders of Europe are now trying to reach Trump's advisors, because Trump's victory is vital for Europe and China. Europe imports $300 billion from China. You know that Trump has imposed extra tariffs on China. He also imposed 10% tariffs on other countries of the world. He also marginalized Europe on the free trade agreement. Trump said to Europe, "You are freeloaders." Because Europe could not pay the 2% of GDP defense budget it had committed to NATO. Therefore, Trump marginalized Europe and said, "Take care of yourselves." Europe also has problems in terms of aid to Ukraine at the moment. Hungary vetoed the draft aid of $54 billion in Europe. This will be reconsidered in February. In the United States, an aid of $60 billion was blocked by the Republicans. The reason is a serious influx of migrants from Mexico. First of all, they want to take steps to stop this. At the moment, Europe is providing arms aid to Ukraine. It is sending artillery shells. However, if Trump changes the equation, Europe itself may soon be disarmed. I do not think that Trump will enter into a war with China. I do not think that a world war will break out during the Trump era. Because Trump has a policy in the opposite direction to the discourses of the globalists. He aims to wage war economically, not militarily. He will exert a stronger pressure on American companies in China. He will ask them to return to America. Trump will want the companies in China to make employment in America. He wants to re-industrialize America, to make America great again. For this reason, he will act more towards getting America back on its feet than a world war. Right now, Joe Biden is not cutting trade with China, but he continues this trade without giving critical products to China, so he is trying to restrain China in this way. Obama had a Trans-Pacific trade agreement with the countries in Eastern Asia. Now Joe Biden has made an economic agreement called the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. Trump is very likely to withdraw from these agreements. He will pressure countries in Asia to wage a commercial war against China, not a military war. Joe Biden's government, on the other hand, is making direct provocations for war. Trump already says this. He does not hide it. Trump says that if he were in power, he would not allow a war to break out between Russia and Ukraine. Naturally, he also claims that he will solve this war in a day when he comes to power. It is normal for Ukraine and Europe to panic right now. What will change geopolitically in the world when Trump comes to power? What is Trump's perspective on issues such as Disease X, climate crisis, LGBT, etc., that globalists carry out around the world? The policy that Trump will follow within the framework of the Great America Strategy will be as follows. He will make an offer to Russia for economic struggle with China. He may make an offer to Russia like this. Let's stop China together. He can make Russia reconcile with Ukraine and make it reconcile with Europe. It paves the way for Russia to sell its natural gas to Europe. Recognize Russia as the ruler of that region. because this is already the main problem of the Russians, to be recognized. There is fear and panic in Europe. So why is there fear and panic in Europe? Especially the German government is under the intense influence of globalists. Trump, who marginalized even Merkel, can seriously marginalize the Scholz government, of course commercially. When Trump comes, he will tell Europe to cut your trade with China. Trump, if elected, will take office in January 2025. What does this mean? Commercially, it could be a period in which Turkey will gain a serious advantage, because Trump can pressure Europe and American companies to withdraw from China. I think Trump will also make sanctions on this issue. In this case, Turkey will be the biggest common market for Europe. Investors coming to Turkey will accelerate. Chinese, Japanese, Americans, and Europeans will come to Turkey. What will the UK do? Trump had supported and praised the UK's Brexit. Therefore, Britain will try to conclude a free trade agreement with America. But there is a big Cold War between Britain and the United States. I will touch on this in the next videos. What does France do? France wants a strategically autonomous Europe. When Trump comes, he may marginalize Europe. Europe will take care of itself. The Italian foreign minister recently talked about the establishment of a European army. A European army may be on the agenda. The 2% share in NATO's defense budget, which Trump criticized, has increased a lot. For this reason, Europe may want to continue with NATO, that is, with Trump. Even if they continue under NATO, they cannot trust the United States, because the current European Parliament is also under the influence of globalists. There is a complete ideological opposition to Trump. Therefore, the east of Europe is also in a state of panic. There is a statement by the Polish defense minister that he would welcome the arrival of German troops and military equipment, because there was a Russian missile that arrived by mistake. The German Patriot defense intercepted it. The countries of Eastern Europe were so convinced that Russia would be defeated in the Ukrainian war that they seriously armed themselves. The same was true in Northern Europe, but Russia was not defeated. Ukraine was firing 7,000 artillery rounds a day. Now it is down to 2,000. The Russians are up to 10,000. Nevertheless, NATO says it will help Ukraine to have a strong Ukraine on the ground. But there is no such support mechanism. The Ukrainian war is damaging Europe. The United States of America brought this war upon Europe. If Joe Biden's government continues, Europe will be in even more trouble. But when Trump comes, he can sit at the table with Russia and find a solution. Therefore, Europe can relax a little bit about the Ukrainian war. But this time, a different process will start with China. Italy used to praise Trump. Italian Prime Minister Meloni has now started working with Joe Biden's government. But in the end, he got out of China's Belt and Road project. Trump was absolutely against this project. Therefore, he can work well with Italy. In the last election, the Israeli Zionist lobby screwed Trump. Trump made a statement right after he lost the election. He said that if I am elected again, I will negotiate nuclear peace with Iran, because Obama had made a nuclear deal with Iran. Trump canceled that deal. Trump's Israel policy may change when he is elected this time. But I still cannot say that it will definitely be like this. There are claims such as the Armageddon War in the Middle East. Trump will not enter such a war, but he will put pressure on Arab countries. There was the Hebrew Agreement, which Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner carried out. Trump will want an agreement similar to this agreement. He will want Saudi Arabia to use the American dollar as a reserve currency. He will want the Gulf oil and natural gas sales to be made in dollars. I think Trump will act faster to end the war between Israel and Palestine, because the prolongation of the war does not suit American national interests. It also affects America's perception in the world badly. Joe Biden's government is silent on this war in order to get the support of the Zionist lobby due to the election. Whose side does the Zionist lobby take in America? They are pragmatists. They favor Hoover will win. Before the election, Obama had given $38 billion of military aid to Israel, but the Zionist lobby could not change the outcome of the election. Dear friends, Trump's first priority will be China. His second priority will be to end the Middle East war. Trump is not a man who will fight. Already Trump says for his former advisor John Bolton, if it was up to this fool, he would have started 3 world wars. The British defense minister says that we should be ready for a conflict with Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea in 5 years. When Trump came, he met with the North Korean leader. I think he will meet once again. I know there is a lot more to tell, but for now, I am ending the video here, dear friends. Let me also point out that the conjuncture during Trump's presidency is not the same as the current conjuncture. Therefore, we may not be able to predict how Trump will conduct policies in this period, because Trump is a man full of surprises. Share your ideas and opinions in the comments. Let's brainstorm. Let's see what awaits us in the new period. Goodbye.